Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. We are in the kitchen today because it has been a long time since we brought you a video about something freeze dried. And we have got something that we've never freeze dried before that we are going to do today. And we're really excited to see how it turns out.
We're actually creating our own supplement today by freeze drying beef livers.
Right. So within the last few months, Sarah and I have really started to learn about all of the benefits of getting more B vitamins in our diet. And neither of us, I don't think, are deficient. In fact, when we had blood work done, neither of us were deficient in B12 or B6 or anything else. But there's a lot of good science that says having even more than just like kind of the normal levels can be really beneficial to your health. Well, as I was researching what the best ways to get the B vitamins are, one of the things that kept coming up over and over and over as a natural source was beef liver. Now, unfortunately, Sarah and I both hate eating beef liver. And even though we have a lot of it in our freezer, it honestly just stays in the bottom of the freezer because neither of us like to consume it. Now, I know some of you absolutely love beef liver. That's great for
Yeah.
you. And I'm so glad that you do because it is such a healthy food. But I really think after talking to people at church and people in our family that liver is one of those things that you either love it and you're never going to change your mind about loving it, or you're like us and you hate it and you're never going to change your mind about hating it.
But in our research, we found lots of people who are freeze drying liver, powdering it, and either putting it in capsules so they can take it without tasting it, or powdering it and then adding it to just like the food that they eat. And it's almost like masked in that food, so you don't even realize that you're consuming beef liver.
And actually, one of the things that we're going to do with this is at some point we are going to put some of it into capsules because we were actually looking at beef liver capsules online. They're pretty pricey if you get a good organic grass fed beef liver capsule.
Right.
You know, a 30-day supply might be close to $30, like a
Wow.
dollar a day, which can really add up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we raise our cows and our cattle exclusively on grass right here on our property, so we know that it's not sprayed with any chemicals
Right.
or anything like that. Good grass fed organic beef liver, and we've got a ton of it.
Not only do we have them graze all year round on grass that has not been sprayed, so it's not certified organic, but it's as organic as you can get without the certification. But all the hay that we feed them throughout the winter, which is all they get, is also from our property, from our hayfield, and we don't spray that at all either. So everything that they're eating is grass and has not been sprayed with anything.
Right. So we do plan on putting some of this into capsule form at some point. I still need to learn a little bit more about how to do that, so we're not going to do that on this video. On this video, though, we are going to do a taste test at the end where we're going to make some burgers, and we're going to mix some of the freeze-dried liver into the burger meat and see if we can tell the difference between plain burgers and burgers that have the freeze-dried liver powder in them.
So why don't we talk, first of all, before we get this stuff in the freeze dryer, about the nutritional benefits of beef liver.
Right. So we've already talked about the B vitamins. Now, I don't have it all memorized, so I did print it out, so I'm going to cheat just a little bit here. But when we're looking at beef liver, so we'll look at like 100 grams of raw liver is kind of the nutritional value that we're looking at here. So in 100 grams of raw liver, which, by the way, is equal to about 4 teaspoons of the stuff that we're going to make today, the powder.
Freeze-dried powder.
It'll be about 4 teaspoons will have this value in it. So we're looking at about 20 grams of protein in 4 teaspoons of powder.
Wow.
Looking at vitamin A, 338% of your daily dose of vitamin A. 1,385% of your daily dose of B12, so 83 micrograms of B12. B2, 168% of your daily allowance. Vitamin B9, which is folate, 72%. Iron, 34% of your daily allowance of iron. Copper, 700% of your daily dose of copper. Choline, zinc. You guys, it just has a ton of great stuff in beef liver.
So that is some nutrient dense food that really we have been completely ignoring with our own food source that we create and produce here on the homestead. And so we're wanting to take advantage of that. What better can we put in our bodies than all of these nutrients from a source that we grow and raise on our own homestead?
So we dug down deep into the bottom of the freezer and we dug out a couple packages of beef liver. You can see it here. It's slimy, it's nasty.
Oh gosh,
it
guys.
doesn't smell very good.
No.
But we are going to freeze dry it and we are going to turn it into something that we can consume on a regular basis. Now, there isn't really a whole lot to preparing the liver for freeze drying because when we get it back from our butcher, it's already sliced.
Yeah.
So, which is really nice. And if you buy liver in the store, it's already sliced when you buy it as well. The one thing I would say is if you do buy liver in the store to do this with, I would try, if you can, to either buy it from a local source, maybe a local butcher who knows whether or not the cattle you were getting it from is grass-fed, or trying your hardest to find an organic grass-fed source in one of the regular stores, if that's possible in your area.
Well, why is that important?
You know, one of the things that I've learned just recently is really the difference between grass-fed versus kind of what I'll call like more conventionally raised beef. Now, we always raise our beef 100% grass-fed, really, because that's the cheapest way to raise it. It seems totally backwards to me that in the store, the stuff that's raised on corn and soy is cheaper than the stuff that's raised on grass because grass is free for most of the farmers. I mean, other than, we have to fertilize and all of that. I think it's because really it takes longer to raise things on grass. But you guys, we raise all of ours strictly on grass. It takes about 2 years to raise a cow from calf all the way up to butcher size. But those 2 years, they're 100% on grass.
Right.
So the things that I've been learning is that there's a huge difference in the nutrients value of things like liver or beef in general from grass-fed sources. The other thing that I've learned, which isn't really part of this video, but like farm-raised fish, farm-raised shrimp, has only about a quarter of the good nutrients that you want compared to wild-caught of the same thing. So like wild-caught shrimp has about 4 times the amount of omega-3s and all of that you would get in a farm-raised version. So whenever you can get something wild or like the beef raised the way it was supposed to be raised, that's what you should do because you're going to get the most nutrients out of that meat.
So those are the reasons why grass-fed beef is important to us in this situation, and also why that's how we raise our beef.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start laying all of this liver out onto the trays.
Can I just tell you that this is very unappetizing to me? Kevin and I, as he said before, we just are not liver lovers. Guys, this is like slimy and kind of bloody, and I'm very, very pleased to find a way that we can consume this because I will not eat this. Right. It's very healthy for you guys. Liver and organ meats are very, very nutritious, but to kind of get over the slime factor is a little bit hard for me.
Right. But look how beautiful that liver is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you can tell
it's
just
gorgeous.
by the color of it, you can tell how much nutrients are in this.
Yes, absolutely. It's gorgeous.
All right, so we are going to just go ahead. We're going to lay this all out on the trays. And then we're going to get ready to put this in the freeze dryer. We'll be back with you guys in just a second. We're going to get the freeze dryer turned on, and then we're going to head over there and get this put in. All right, so we've got the freeze dryer started. It already cooled itself down. There's a cycle that kind of cools the racks inside, so once you load everything in, it's already kind of pre-chilled. So I've already done that, so we're about ready to start. Now I just wanted to tell you guys, in case you haven't been watching this for long, the freeze dryer that we have is a Harvest Right medium-sized freeze dryer. Now last year we did an upgrade on our freeze dryer that increased it from having 4 trays to having 5 trays. If you have one of the older style freeze dryers like we have, the medium always came with 4 trays, or a rack that holds 4 trays. The new ones come with 5 trays. If you contact Harvest Right, then you can actually buy just the new insert so that even the older ones will take 5 of the trays. So if you want to upgrade to that, you can definitely do that. We'll leave a link in the description to Harvest Right so you can check this out. But you guys, we love freeze drying. We do it all the time. I know we don't do a lot of videos about it, but we do use our freeze dryer quite a bit, especially this time of year when we're in harvest season. So you will be seeing more freeze drying videos coming up now that we're into harvest season. The reason we like freeze drying versus like dehydrating, which we used to do a lot of dehydrating, is because freeze drying removes so much more of the moisture and makes things much more shelf stable. When you use a freeze dryer, you're taking out like 99% of the moisture of whatever you put in there, which makes things shelf stable for 20, 25 years, somewhere in that range, as long as you store them correctly. When you're dehydrating things, you're taking out much less of the moisture than that. It is still a good way to preserve things, but you're looking at, maybe 5 or 10 years of shelf life versus 20 to 25 years. So freeze drying definitely has some benefits. The other nice thing about freeze drying is because you're not heating the food up like you do during the dehydrating process, you're keeping all of the nutrients in the food, which is, again, really important with something like we're doing today with the beef liver, because we want all of those vitamins to remain in the food. When you cook food or even heat it up to the degrees that you would do for dehydrating, you are losing some of that nutrient value. All right, so I've got this all ready. I'm going to turn it on the rest of the way, and then we're going to grab the trays of the beef liver and we're going to load it up. All right, those are all loaded in. It should probably take somewhere between 24 and 36 hours for these to get finished. Once they're done, we'll bring you guys along as we take them out and grind them up into powder. Well, the freeze dryer is done. We've actually added a little bit extra time to the freeze dryer to make sure that the liver is really good and dry. With things like raw meat, you really want to make sure all or as much of the moisture is out as you possibly can, and that does seem to be the case.
So now is the time where we're going to take all of the liver out of the freeze dryer and we're going to be grinding it up and then putting it in jars. But we need to do this really quickly so that it doesn't start reconstituting just through the humidity in the air.
Right, and that's one thing that's important when you live in a humid part of the country like we do, is that with freeze-dried food, if it's out, it's going to start sucking all of that moisture out of the air to reconstitute itself. Now, we do run a dehumidifier in our house, and that does bring the humidity down quite a bit in the house, which is really nice. But even so, on a day like today, it was actually like 80% humidity outside earlier. I'm not sure what it is now. But even with the dehumidifier in the house, it's still probably 40% humidity in the house, which can make quite a difference when you're working with things like freeze-dried food.
So because we're going to be working quickly, let's just tell them the process that we're going to be doing once we get the liver pieces out here.
So we're going to bring it out on the trays from the freeze dryer, and we're going to put it into our blender here. We use a Vitamix, so it's a high-power blender. Once it's completely ground up, we're going to be putting it into jars. I have no idea. I don't know if it's going to make 1 jar. I don't know if it's going to make 6 jars.
Yeah.
So we took out 6 just to be safe. And then we're going to vacuum seal the jars for the ones that we're going to store. 1 jar we're not going to vacuum seal because that will be the one that we're using currently. But we will be putting an oxygen absorber into each jar. Even the one that we're not going to vacuum seal, we'll put an oxygen absorber in.
Now, in the past, you have seen that we have a handheld rechargeable kind of vacuum sealer that works with just canning lids on jars. There's a little attachment here that goes over the lid and onto the jar. and then you put the rechargeable vacuum sealer on top there, and then just press it, let it suction out as much of the air as you can.
Here, let's do it.
For like 20 seconds or so.
And that's actually pulling all of the air out of the jar and suctioning the lid on.
And then having one of these handheld rechargeable vacuum sealers is really handy in comparison to having your vacuum sealer with kind of an attachment that goes onto this device on your counter all the time. It's just easy to store, and it's not cumbersome to get in and out of the cupboard.
And I think the thing was like $20 on Amazon, and we've had it already for a couple of years, and it still works great. So let me take this off and show you. You can see that now that has sucked all of the air out of the jar. You can actually hold the jar up by the lid, and it's on there tight. You can hear when you open it up that was vacuum sealed down there. So it's a handy little gadget to have.
Now this is actually an awesome way to reuse the canning lids that you've used on your canning. You don't need to start with new ones like when you're canning. But the only caveat to that is if your lids have any kind of imperfections when you've opened it or whatever, it might not create a good seal, or if there's any debris on there. So sometimes if you're having trouble getting these things to work on your jar, you'll want to try a different lid, and we actually had that problem. We needed to switch lids.
Right. All right, well, let's go get the liver out of the freeze dryer, bring it all over, and then we're going to get busy just grinding it up and getting it into the jars. And then after that, we are actually going to do a taste test. I've taken some ground beef out. We're going to make 4 burger patties. We're going to make 2 of them with the liver in and 2 of them without the liver, and we're going to see if we can tell the difference at all in the taste of the ones that have the liver. All right, I've already opened the drain and let the pressure out, and I've already hit the button to warm the trays up. That's important to do because if you don't warm the trays up when you take them out, condensation can build up on the trays and it'll start to reconstitute the food on the trays. But this is all set to go. Look at our liver there. That is awesome. All right, you guys. Well, this is pretty awesome. I wish you could feel this. It's super, super light. You can see how crunchy it is. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to break this into pieces. We're going to put it into the blender. I'm not sure how much.
It smells exactly the way it did when it went into the freeze dryer.
Well, yeah, it's still liver. Even though it's freeze dried, it's still liver. So let's see if we can get 2 trays worth in at a time. I'm excited to be able to start incorporating this into our diet, though, because there really are a ton of health benefits of eating not only liver, but, organ meats in general. If you haven't researched that, I do recommend that you look into all the benefits of eating organ meats along with, your steaks and everything else. All right, let's try grinding this up.
Looks nice and powdered.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, so the first 2 trays gave us about this much powder. Let's see what that is in a jar.
Careful.
Look at that. That is awesome, you guys. That's actually, it's making more than I thought. So we're going to put an oxygen absorber in that jar. I think in the future we put those in the bottom.
Okay.
It's fine.
I'm gonna just wipe off that to make sure that there's nothing preventing that from sealing.
All right, so we've got our first 2 jars done. We've still got 3 trays to go, so that should make another 2 or 3, 4 jars maybe. So we're gonna get to work. We're gonna get the rest of this done, and we're just gonna keep doing the same thing that we're doing now over and over. And then on the last jar, we won't seal that one up. We'll get out the ground beef. I'm gonna fire up the grill, and we're gonna actually try this out and see how it tastes. Well, our 5 trays of liver in the freeze dryer ended up making 5.5 pints of ground up liver. So that's awesome, you guys. That is actually way more than I thought it would make. So we do have the half jar. This is the one we'll use for today that we have not sealed. I did put an oxygen absorber in there, but we didn't seal it. Now, one thing we wanted to talk about as well is that you have to remember that this is still raw meat. Even though it's freeze dried, this is still raw meat. So you need to treat it as you would any other raw meat by taking precautions if you get it on your hands or whatever. So for today, we are going to be making some burger patties. We're going to be putting them on the grill and doing a taste test. We're going to make 2 burgers with and 2 burgers without the liver in. I've got some of our home raised ground beef. Again, grass fed. Actually, could be the same cow that the liver came from, honestly. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting 1 teaspoon per patty into this burger meat. So we're going to make 4 patties. So I'm going to put 2 teaspoons into the 2 patties that I'm making. So if I were making this normally and I were just using the whole pound, I'd put 4 teaspoons in there.
What we want to determine is if 1 teaspoon of the liver per burger patty is going to be off-putting. If it's going to be too strong. So that's what we're going to figure out.
Right.
So we have
because none of us like liver.
Not really.
None of us just like eating liver.
No. So we have 1 pound of ground meat here. We're going to separate it into halves. We like 1/4 pound beef patties or hamburgers. So the first 2 patties that Kevin's going to be making are just going to be our beef. We're going to only season this meat with salt and pepper. Nothing else. We're not going to put any cheese on it afterwards either. Just the burger patties.
Which goes against everything I believe in coming from Wisconsin. You always have to have a cheeseburger. But in this situation, we're not going to do cheeseburgers because I don't want to mask the flavor. I want to taste. The only thing I want to be able to taste is the beef, the liver, and of course a little salt and pepper. But
so this 1/2 pound of ground beef, we're going to add the 2 teaspoons of the freeze-dried liver. We're going to mix that in really well. We do have a separate plate to put on so that we can tell the difference between the 2 types of burger patties.
My guess is we're not going to be able to tell the difference at all. Now, burger patties aren't the only way we plan on using this freeze-dried liver. Like I said, I'm going to plan on putting some of it into capsules so that even on the days when we're not eating something that I can put it in, I can still take some every day. And, you know, when we make things like soups and stews, I mean, this will be a really easy way to be able to sprinkle some in. You'll never even know that it's in there, but you'll be getting all of that great benefit of eating, you know, the liver. So, all right. I mean, you can't tell it's in there right now, that's for sure. I haven't tasted it. No. But you certainly can't tell by looking at it that there's anything different about it. All right, so we've got our 2 patties that are just plain. We've got our 2 patties that have the liver in. I'm going to wash my hands, and we'll head out to the grill and get them cooking. All right, let's put these burgers on. Here's the 2 plain ones. I'll put those over on this side. And we'll put the ones with the liver. Let's have them grill. We'll bring them back in and do a taste test. Well, the burgers are off the grill. You guys, they look and smell amazing. No difference in the way that these are the ones with the liver. They look exactly the same as the ones without the liver. They smell exactly the same. I haven't been able to tell a difference at all, but we haven't tasted them yet to really find out.
So I think the best thing for us to do is to first taste the burger patties that don't have the extra liver in them.
Right.
So then we can...
Kind of our control group.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So, normal burger, grass-fed, best you can get. All right, so now we have our control group. Time to finally try the burgers that have the liver and see if we think that there's any difference at all.
I'll take the little piece.
All right. My guess is we're not even going to be able to tell the difference. Well, you guys, you would never know the difference.
No way.
There was absolutely no difference in flavor at all between the two different types of burgers. So that is actually exactly what we want.
Yeah.
We were hoping there would be no difference in flavor because neither of us really like the flavor of liver.
Right, so this is really a fantastic way to get extra nutrients in our food by adding really just a little bit of this freeze-dried liver powder.
Yeah, I mean, look, think of how many teaspoons are in these 5.5 jars. And we're actually going to get another round of it going here in a little bit because we have quite a bit of liver in our freezer because over the years, every time we get a cow processed, even though we haven't eaten the liver, we always get it back because we want it. We knew it was good for us, and we knew eventually we would figure out a way that we wanted to consume it, and now we finally did.
You know, we also have beef heart in the freezer.
Right.
And that's not even as strong flavored as the liver, so now we have a way to freeze dry and consume the heart too, which has amazing nutrients in it as well.
Right. Like I said earlier, it's not just liver, it's all organ meats that you should be consuming really on almost a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's so good for you, and it's a part of our diet that over time we've just kind of lost as a society. Not many people eat it anymore, but we really should be.
So we highly encourage you guys to try this, especially if you have a freeze dryer at home. If you don't, consider consuming more liver in your diet, whether it's, from cooked liver or freeze dried liver, just like this. You cannot go wrong. You guys, if you're enjoying videos like this, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And remember that the best way that you can help us here on the homestead is just to share our videos. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by our homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.